Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. If you guys weren't aware, there is currently a massive sale going on in War Thunder for everything from vehicles that cost SL to GE and some other things as well. In this video, I will be going over what my picks are for your GE-based vehicles, your premium vehicles in War Thunder. And if you guys didn't know, I have reviews on an absolutely huge chunk of premium vehicles in War Thunder. I honestly wouldn't be surprised, and this is not trying to flex here, I wouldn't be surprised if I have more reviews than almost anyone else who's ever played this game. So just bear that in mind. I've played a lot of these vehicles, and I have a pretty good idea of which ones are worth it and which ones simply are not. So that said, let's go ahead and start with the US Army, and I'll work my way all the way over to Israeli Aviation to tell you which GE-based premiums are worth it. So just so you guys know, I actually did a first iteration of this video, and by the time I got done with the entirety of the US, it was already like 11 or 12 minutes into the video. So I'll try to get a lot quicker in this. So that said, let's go ahead and start. First and foremost, the M4A5, totally recommend this. Personally, it's one of my favorite vehicles in all of War Thunder insofar as tanks are concerned. It has great survivability, in my opinion, a really good cannon that can get down to 4-second reload, and it's just got decent enough mobility, but an excellent vehicle. It's kind of like if you combined a Churchill with a Sherman tank, even though this is on the Lee chassis. So awesome vehicle. I fully recommend it. The only problem is it's rank 2. If you have a problem with it being rank 2, I would then go with the T14, which is kind of like a pseudo Jumbo Sherman. Next, we have the Grant. I don't really know if I could recommend that personally. And by the way, from here on out, if I just don't recommend something, or if I just think it's okay, then I'll probably just skip it without even mentioning it, just so you guys know or get an idea of why I might be skipping some vehicles. Next up, the Cobra King. This is great for those who like Jumbo Shermans, but that's pretty much all this is. It's just a Jumbo Sherman with a cool name, Cobra King. Much the same with the M18 Black Cap, but I don't believe that that's on sale currently. Next up, we have the Calliope, and I actually have a review that's coming out on this on Saturday, and this vehicle is absolutely bananas. Costs way too much GE for being a rank 3 vehicle, especially. The rockets are devastating in a down tier, but it just costs way too much. I would say, like, you can get M1128 Wolfpack, if I'm not mistaken, for less GE, for fewer GE than you would the Calliope. So if you have way excess Golden Eagles and all that, this is a really good vehicle. But if you do not have excess Golden Eagles and you're looking for vehicles to spend it on, I would any day of the week go for pretty much anything higher ranked than that before you get the Calliope. It's a cool vehicle, but it just costs way too much for what it is. Next, I actually have reviews on a few of these. So the Super Hellcat and the M26 T99, I've got reviews on both of them. I like the Super Hellcat. This is pretty much an M36 Jackson turret and cannon on top of a Hellcat. It's a tiny bit slower, but you don't really notice it all too much. I like it a lot. It's a very good vehicle, but a 6.3 BR just kind of feels It's pretty good, but it's not amazing. M26 T99, I think this just got an up tier or just saw a recent BR increase, because I think I reviewed it like 2 months ago when it was 6.3 BR, which it was 6.3 BR for like years, and then Gaijin decided to raise its BR. I like it. It's kind of like the Calliope, except at a higher tier. It's got the same rockets, but instead of being on top, it is on the side. Makes it a little bit more difficult to aim them, but still a really good vehicle. I like it a lot. I'd probably actually take the T99, if I'm not mistaken, over the Super Hellcat. It's a very fun vehicle, especially on sale. Next, we have the T54E1. I like it, but it's like a 6 out of 10 for me. It's good, but not amazing. Unfortunately, there's not like a ton of brawlers for the US. This is a pretty decent brawler. It just doesn't really have great survivability in that role. I mean, it's got like an M48 chassis, if I'm not mistaken, which is why it has such mediocre armor. And it's not all that fast. The T54E2, which actually I just did a review on, unfortunately, this vehicle is currently not on sale. I like this one a lot more than I like the T54E1. Now, it doesn't mean that the E1 is bad, but again, it's not all too bad. What I would do instead of getting this, I would just skip forward to the M1128 Wolfpack. You get 2 ranks higher for less than 400 extra Golden Eagles, at least when it's on sale. This thing can grind through the entirety of the American ground tech tree and has the M900 APF SDS, which is fantastic, and it's got a really cool camo net. Definitely recommend that. Also, this is a great time for everybody who does not yet have every single base helicopter, like the AH-1G, the Alouette, all these vehicles. That's the perfect time for you to buy them. They are 50% 10% off, so you guys can buy them and kind of work your way into the aviation or the helicopter air tech tree. Next up, we have the American Aviation, and I'll just probably skip by a lot of these. These are okay, like the KI-43 and 61, XP-55 Ascender, good vehicles, but they're very one-sided. The B-10, it's a sitting duck in my experience. The BF-109F4, this is the first one I would fully recommend. However, it's very one-sided as well. I personally like it more than the XP-55. It's a very balanced fighter, but it just, again, doesn't really do all too much. Now, the XP-50, this thing is the bane of pretty much everyone in War Thunder. It's kind of like a lower BR Sukhoi 11, Su-11. I love it. Everyone loves it. This is a fantastic plane, fully recommend it. BTD-1, excellent vehicle. You get yourself a bomber spawn in Air RB, and I think they just increased the amount that this thing can carry. So if I'm not mistaken, it used to only be able to carry this. Now you can carry two of them. You can carry two 1,000-pound bombs, or you can carry two 1,600-pound armor-piercing bombs. So very interesting. Plus, as you can see on the bottom there, how much armor it can go through if you're dropping it from, let's say, 3,000 or 5,000 meters. Really awesome, in my opinion. Plus, the magnetic mines, which each have over 500 kilograms of explosive filler. In fact, these are some of the only weapons in all of War Thunder that have more explosive filler equivalent than the total mass that they have. These can be used against bases in Air RB, and I think they can be used against tanks as well. So really, really good. Fully recommend the BTD-1. Next up, the XA-38. Only recommend it fully if you get it for CAS. Otherwise, wouldn't bother. Air RB in this thing is atrocious. It is one of the worst experiences I've ever had with any vehicle in Air RB. Next, for an overall vehicle, A2D1. This thing is fantastic for Air RB, for ground RB. Great close air support vehicle. And now that there are custom loadouts, you can even put it with a 4,000-pound bomb, which actually a few matches ago, I just lined up for a triple kill very, very easily. Awesome vehicle. I love it. And you can grind all the way through the F8U, the AV8C, a large chunk of the tech tree. Awesome vehicle. The only Blue Water Fleet vehicle I would really recommend, or two I guess I would recommend, are going to be the Moffat and the Helena. More so the Moffat, because this thing is a silver line grinder and then some, one of the best in the game regardless of the mode that you like to play. Now we have Germany, and there are a ton of German vehicles. I love the Panzer IIIN. I did a review on this. It's kind of like a mini Tiger. I absolutely love it. T-34 747R. This thing is pretty much an up-armored version of the T-34, and its cannon is just good enough where you should be able to pen through pretty much anyone that you'll be facing pretty damn reliably. Plus, in my experience, it is in down tiers all the time, and it's pretty damn quick. So you have yourself a good mix of not only armor pen, but again, you have great armor and excellent mobility. Beyond this, I mean, I would kind of recommend this. I'm actually going to buy this right now. It's more for people who like the concept of having a very big gun. Otherwise, it does not have good mobility, doesn't have really much armor at all, but it is a cheap rank 3, so why not? But definitely recommend the German T-34 747R or Rusik more than I would recommend for this. And in much the same way, I'd kind of recommend the German KW or KV-1. It's a very good vehicle. It's got the same cannon, as a matter of fact, as the long gun Panzer IV, so it's actually got a very effective cannon. The thing about the long gun Panzer IV is that without that gun, this thing would probably be like 2.7 or 3.0 BR. It's not a very good vehicle, whereas if you equip that to a much more capable vehicle, like the KV-1, this thing becomes very good. Now, it used to be better when it was 4.7 BR, but it is still very, very capable. I do recommend it, although I would recommend the German T-34 before you purchase this. Next up, the Panzer Befehlswagen 6P. I like this a lot. It did not see a recent BR increase, so I would kind of recommend it in that regard, but it is very, very slow, and pretty much all of its armor is right there on the front. So it's a really good vehicle if you're going to be like frontlining with it, or even potentially brawling with it, but otherwise it's very one-dimensional, might be a good way to put it. And I do have a review on that. Like I said, if you are interested in any of these vehicles, I've got reviews on pretty much all of them. I would also recommend the RU-251. The only problem with this is, if I remember correctly, there's not really a lineup for it, and it looks like that's still the case. So very good light tank, but it is only rank 4, and you could get, for example, the M47G, which is a rank 5 vehicle, which then allows you to grind all the way up through the early 9.0 BR bracket. So I'd recommend this before the RU-251 just for grinding's sake, but the RU-251 is still a really good vehicle just without any sort of lineup. Next up, we have the TAM2IP. 100% recommend it. I love this thing. I call it the TAM2 OP. It is fantastic. It has the DM33 with over 400 millimeters of armor pen. This thing has enhanced armor compared to the standard TAM2. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have any sort of night vision for the gunner or thermals for the gunner. You only get night vision for the driver, oddly enough, for this. So it's a very strange thing, but if it had thermals, this thing would probably be, I'd say, 9.3 or even 9.7 BR. It's that good. Next, for aviation, I'm just going to skip through like a lot of this early stuff because so much of this is just cheap. I guess you could say it doesn't really have too much of a bottom line. I'd fully recommend the TA-154A1 if you want an interceptor. This thing is one of the best interceptors at and around its BR. I absolutely love it. Fully recommend it. Plus, it's rank 3. Much the same way I'd say for the P47 D16 RE. I like this vehicle a lot. I just so happen to have the slightly better one, I guess you could say. But this is still a really good vehicle. It just doesn't have any sort of anti-ground ordnance. And also, if you're going to be playing naval, this is actually a pretty decent vehicle to do it with. It's basically a torpedo-carrying FW-190. Oddly enough. So it's a pretty interesting vehicle in that regard. It's inexpensive. I think I did kind of like a pseudo review on it. Very cool vehicle, but not necessarily amazing. But one vehicle I fully recommend any day of the week, DO-335B2. This is one of my favorite strike aircraft in all of War Thunder. I think I did a review on this. It's got the MK-103s with fantastic armor pen for its cannons. It can carry up to 1,000 kilograms of bombs. This thing is amazing and a half. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Then you have the JU-288. Fully recommend that. If you want a good silver line grinder, this is the one to go with. Then we have the G91R4. I love this. I actually did a review on this one. Well, kind of. I did it on the Italian version, but it's literally the same exact vehicle. Fully recommend this. You can grind all the way through rank 6. Excellent vehicle. I love this as well. Much the same for the SPK, for the MiG-21 SPK. I like it a lot. I personally like flying the G91R4 more so than I do the SPK. But this thing, I did a review on this as well as the MiG-21S, and basically this is kind of like the version with the better missiles, whereas the MiG-21S is pretty much like the gunfighters version of it, if that makes any level of sense. So it's pretty much like technology versus with the MiG-21S gunfighting. Next up, for Russian ground, I would say the T3, but it's only rank 1. I like it, but again, rank 1. Damn shame too. I'd kind of skip through a lot of these, like for example the SMK. Don't really need it, you know. T-34-57, I think this is like an up-armored version of what you'd find on the standard version here. So you have 45, 45, 45 on the turret. This has 53, 53, 53, and it's a very good vehicle. The only problem that I have with it is that it doesn't really have excellent post-pen damage. It's almost kind of like firing an enhanced solid shot. It's got a great cannon with a great reload, but once it gets through, sometimes that explosive filler is insufficient to kill everyone on the inside. I like it. I'd recommend it, but before you get that, I'd probably say get the M4A2 more, because this thing, in my opinion, has a better cannon and is just overall a little bit of a better vehicle. Next up, I mean, I wouldn't really get this, wouldn't get that. Like, a lot of these upgunned variants of vehicles, the problem with them is that they take so damn long to reload. With the KV-122, you have a 27.1 second reload. This has a 21.7. This has a 30.2, but the T-34-100, it's a bit more respectable. Basically, you're taking the 100mm cannon on the T-44, or actually on the T-44-100 rather, and you are instead putting it here. I know it's technically a different cannon, but it has very similar, if not the same ballistics. I like it a lot, but it has very little survivability. I do have a review on it. If you have excess Golden Eagles, go ahead and buy it. And then finally, I think the only final one that we have here that we can get for Golden Eagles, the 2S38, 100% recommend it. This thing is fantastic. It can go after air, ground, It has great thermals, great mobility, fantastic vehicle. This thing is hated pretty much amongst everyone who has to face it. And again, I mean, kind of like the same story, you kind of have to skip through a lot of these because it's like, they're not bad. Like the I-153P, it's a pretty good vehicle, but what can you really do with it? It's rank 2, unless it really stands out to me. Typically, I don't really go over that. Now, when it comes to CAS, you could go for the P39K1. This has the same exact loadout, basically the 500 or the 250 kilogram bomb, more or less around a 500 or so pound bomb, and I mean, it is a bit more effective, of course, than a 500-pound bomb, but regardless, this is kind of like a neutered version of the P63A5. So it has worse performance, and it is rank 2. So I would probably say get the P63A5 if you're going to be going for one or the other, because it's only 300 golden eagles more, and you can grind all the way through rank 4 of the tech tree. Plus, if you need a decent enough, not a great close air support, but a decent enough close air support vehicle, this one will serve you much better for longer because it does have better performance. But if you really want a much better close air support vehicle, P47 D27 all day, any day. This thing pretty much is like a standard P47D variant, except again, it gets these bigger bombs. So with the American versions, I think you get like 1,000-pound and 500-pound bombs, if I'm not mistaken. 500 kilograms weighs more than 1,000 pounds. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, based on some analysis that I did on this a few months ago, these actually have substantially higher explosive mass totals in them. So this thing is improved basically in terms of what it can carry for bombs compared to American versions. 100% recommend this. Now, it kind of gets a little bit murky once you get a little bit further down. I like the FW190D9, for example, but it's very one-dimensional. It's just pretty much a fighter. The SU6, a good vehicle for CAS, but I would still go for the P47D27, except for the fact that this is rank 4. It kind of sucks, you know? Like, this thing, it doesn't, in my opinion, have as good of a CAS loadout. It's not as good as the P47D27, but it is rank 5, or rank 4, rather. And if rank matters to you, pick this up over the P47D27, but it's not all that fantastic. And then finally, going through the end of it, the SU-11, this thing is a god tier fighter, even at 7.3 BR. Used to be 7.0, 7.3, still fantastic, and it can even perform CAS. This thing is amazing and a half, and if and when they ever introduce custom loadouts to this, I'm sure we'll be able to put at least one extra bomb on the side of this, which would make it even more effective. I mean, even the cannons can go after ground targets. They have 50 millimeters of armor pen, and then 32 with the 23 millimeters. Fantastic, 100% recommend it. I do have a review on it, by the way. Yak 38, I like it. It's better for close air support than it is for fighting. Still a pretty good vehicle. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's just okay in many regards. And then finally, as I mentioned before, the MiG-21S. This is a gunfighter's vehicle through and through. I like it a lot, but if you are not a fan of having crappy missiles, insofar as the R3S and kind of the R3R, I wouldn't really recommend it. But, you know, it can also do CAS in a pinch. But again, I would recommend the Yak 38 if you want CAS, or, you know, over top of the MiG-21S, or you can just wait and get the SU-7 BMK or SU-25K for better CAS. Also, if you guys are still watching this, thank you so much, everyone. This video is a bit longer than I expected. But again, I mean, I've played so many of these vehicles that it's like, it kind of has to be longer than like 20 minutes. But that being said, the Sherman 6 Truzniak or Scorpion or whatever it's called, basically, I love this vehicle. This is probably the best of the Firefly Shermans. It weighs a lot less than the other Fireflies, despite having the same or better armor compared to a lot of them. Fantastic vehicle. I think it's great. Personally, fully recommend it. And there's not really all too much beforehand that I would fully recommend. I mean, the AC-1 is pretty good, but this is an Operation Winter vehicle, so my apologies for even mentioning that. But, you know, looking forward, we have the AC-4. I like this a lot. It's got really, really trolly armor. It's a very good vehicle. I do still have to do a review on it, but I have played it a bit. I like it. It's got the same cannon as the Truzniak or the Scorpion, but, you know, it is a bit higher of a BR. I'd say the Sherman before you get the AC-4, but they're still really, really good. And then, of course, you have the Khalid. I would not get the Vijayanto. I actually have a review on this. This thing is a disappointment and a half. The cannon just isn't good. It basically has very few of the really good points that you'd want with the Vickers Mark III. The only thing that it's really decent at is its reload rate. Otherwise, I wouldn't go for it. But the Khalid, much, much better of a vehicle. This thing used to be kind of meh. Then they added the Shot L23. Fantastic vehicle, very quick. The only bad part about it is that it doesn't have thermals, but it is still a very, very effective vehicle, and as you can see up here, I've actually used it quite a bit in my time. Now we have the Great Britain Air Tech tree, and there's a few that I would kind of recommend here. I mean, rank 2, I would probably say like any of these, really, to be honest with you. The Avenger Mark II, it's pretty decent, not amazing. I go for the Corsair F Mark II beforehand. It's just a bit more capable, but more seriously, I would go for the Thunderbolt Mark I. This is a fantastic vehicle. Pretty much, this is a P-47, just for the English. Amazingly good vehicle, and you can even craft your own bomb loadout. So let's go ahead and just see exactly what we could do here. So we have that, and that's pretty much the maximum bomb load that you can have. But just so you guys get an idea of it, this is pretty much it. You know, it's not bad at all, but as I said before, like with the Russians, for example, with their P-47, as you can see, 1,000 pound bombs, this actually has lower TNT equivalent compared to the Russian version. Much the same, I think, for the 500 compared to the 250 kilogram bomb of the Russians. Still fantastic, especially at 3.7. Much the same for the Hellcat, but I would go for the Thunderbolt over top of it. Now, if you want a good fighter, I'd go for the Mustang Mark I. In fact, actually, I'm going to go buy that right now. And this is a really, really good fighter. It's got Hispano Mark IIs, which are a bit shoddy when it comes to how good they are, but the thing is, you get it with fully modified Mark II year 1943s, which basically ups their reliability substantially. So it's still a really good vehicle. Beyond this, I would probably go for the Sea Vixen FAW Mark II. This is a really good vehicle, but the thing is, before you even go for that, I'd go for the Harrier GR1 any day of the week. I mean, like, the Harrier GR1 is still a very, very good vehicle at its BR. It's got the SRAMs, which are incredibly close range, mind you. Like, they have very little range. You pretty much have to be running perpendicular compared to the enemy and, like, right on their tail in order to actually hit them, but very, very good. Plus SCAS capabilities. If you want something a bit different, the Sea Vixen's awesome, but it only has missiles that you can use to attack. Of course, you can go after ground targets as well with this, but the missiles are going to be what you can do. Plus, of course, you have bullpups, but this is primarily an air-to-air, whereas this is more of a general vehicle. Okay, let's go ahead and speed this up a bit more. Avoid the Rogo at any cost. This thing is one of the worst vehicles in all of War Thunder. It is terrible, awful. I might even do a review on it, but I've used it enough. It's just an awful, awful vehicle. Chinook 2, pretty good vehicle. I would recommend it. It's a good rank 3 vehicle. Very little armor, but it has an excellent, excellent cannon. And then beyond this, like the Hovey prototype, it's very good. My only issue with it is just that it's got a bit less armor compared to the production version, and also it's an SPG. There's not really as much flexibility with an SPG as you would get with a tank. Unfortunately, Japan doesn't really have too much when it comes to ground forces, premium ground forces, and a lot of these are limited time only. For example, the Heavy Tank Mark number 6, which is a Tiger tank, mind you, and the Kachi, you can't get these anymore, you know, unfortunately. So Japan is really high and dry, and I would kind of avoid the Type 75 MLRS. For me personally, doesn't seem all that good, but something to note here, I really don't have any experience with it, so if you want more experience or more knowledge on it, definitely check out a review, but just based on how it is, I have test driven it before. I'm not a big fan of it. And, you know, the Kisarazu is pretty okay. It does have tow missiles, which is okay. It does have thermals, but, you know, it's just, in my opinion, you could just get the AH-1S, you know. Next up for air, this is where Japan really starts to shine. I like the A7 HE-1. This is pretty much, I think, an HE-112 from the Germans, except flying under Japanese colors. Really cool vehicle. As you can see, it's got the MGFF cannons, all that German things, and it's cool. Much the same for the BF-109E7. I like it a lot. Great vehicle. But these are both very one-sided, plus they're ranked 2. The KI-102, I like this vehicle a lot. It's actually got a very good close air support loadout. You can have two 250 kilogram bombs with this, and it's rank 3. So for going after air targets, pretty good, but surprisingly, this thing can be up-tiered quite a bit to go after ground targets. I've used it in that way several times, and if you ever have one of those tasks for Battle Pass that requires you to have less than a 120 kilogram bomb, this is the one to do it with. It has a very high TNT filler in it, and it's just a very good vehicle for it. Fully recommend the KI-102. I love that thing. But then, of course, you go with like all these other things. This is kind of like the same story as the BF-109E7. It's very good, but it's limited because it has no secondary loadout. The P-51C, very good. but it's limited because it has no secondary loadout. However, you do have the tracers with pure incendiaries on this, which is really cool. Plus, it is a cool historical artifact, so I'm going to go ahead and buy it myself. Then you have like the A7M1. Cool vehicle. I like it, but it's, I mean, again, how much can I really go over here? These are cool vehicles, but they're kind of one-sided, and they all kind of do very similar things in a way. I don't think the J2M5 is currently available. If it was, I would probably say to avoid it, but more so if the J2M4 is still available, definitely that's a good one. The A7M1, it's good, but what else can you really do much with it? It's just kind of your standard Japanese fighter. Unfortunately, a lot of these are kind of like your standard Japanese fighters, in my experience at least. Is this on Golden Eagle sale? If it is, I would recommend it if you are a gunfighter, but that's pretty much it. Now for the fleet, of course you have to talk about the Japanese fleet. It is one of the most impressive in War Thunder, and bear in mind, I'm going to be saying this from the perspective of someone who likes to play naval AB rather than RB, because you get a ton of torpedoes. The Makuma, fantastic vehicle, not incredible when it comes to its cannons, but you get tons of these torpedoes that have a huge amount of explosive filler. They move really fast and have an excellent travel range. In naval AB, they are fantastic. Much the same for the Shimakaze, but unfortunately, that's not on sale. Now, next up for China, we have a bunch of vehicles. Coincidentally, China has far more tanks than Japan does when it comes to premium vehicles. Or maybe not a coincidence, I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, the M4A4 is okay, but it is a rank 2. This is pretty much your standard Sherman 75mm cannon. It's got an HMG on top. Good vehicle, but again, rank 2. Take it as you will. I would say go for the M41A3. This is one of my favorite light tanks in game. It doesn't have the Heat FS or APDS that the higher BR M41s have, but at 5.0 BR, I'd say that this is actually a better vehicle than those M41s, so it is a bit better in that regard. I wish it was on sale. Now, I do have a review on the ZTZ-59A. I like it, but it's not fantastic. The stabilizer, I think, fails at a relatively low speed, if I'm not mistaken. It's a good vehicle, but it's not really something that I would say go ahead and pick up over top of something like the WMA 301, which, by the way, this is a great vehicle. It's got, I think, Gen 2 or Gen 3 thermals on it. You have the GP 105 ATGM tandem charge, no less. It's got decent APFSDS, or as they call it, the Type 83 APDS. It is a very good vehicle overall. I like it a lot. Even at 9.0 BR, it's still a perfectly sufficient vehicle, and I think it started at 8.3 BR. So I'd recommend this over top the ZTZ-59A, but if you have extra GE, why not? Now, when it comes to aviation, probably like outside of the BF-109 Flagels, BF-109 rather, for Germany, the only one I would really recommend at like a low BR is probably the Hawk 3. The reason being is because you can have almost 1,000 pounds of bombs on this thing. It's a rank 1, or battle rating 1.0, rank 1, 125 Golden Eagles. This thing is a close air support dominator at low BR. The only problem is it doesn't have more than LMGs. Otherwise, this thing can carry a ton of bombs for being so small. Beyond this, of course, you have your Zero fighter. I mean, it's good, but there's only so much you could do with it. It's limited when it comes to close air support, as you could tell. Much the same thing when it comes to the KI-84 Co, but this does have much better close air support capabilities. But again, these are pretty much just fighters for fighter's sake. I would say, like, this is pretty good, but I mean, I'm not like gaga over it. You know, it's, if you have the XS Golden Eagles, go ahead and buy it. You can grind through rank 5, but I would just say get the F-84 G31RE beforehand. This thing is actually, it's a tried and true close air support plane. You have up to 1,000-pound bombs with it. You can carry probably quite literally tons of rockets on them. I mean, it's a really good vehicle. And then finally, of course, you have the Shenyang F5, which can carry PL2. So if you're getting like, if you want kind of a taste of early jet, like missile-to-missile combat, this is a good way to do it. This is, I think, a MiG-17, basically, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but it is a pretty good plane. It's just not really great. It's much more of a gunfighter, but the problem is it doesn't really have too much when it comes to cannon rounds, but it does turn very well. In fact, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy it. This is something I have been wanting for quite a while. Isn't that weird? Like, they give you a ton of backups when it comes to planes, but I'd rather have, like, the vehicle be cheaper, you know? And we're getting right near the end here. So let's go with Italy. And one vehicle I really like, M4 Hybrid. Great vehicle. I mean, you really can't go wrong with M4s. It's a rank 3 vehicle. It's got okay armor. There is an M4 that I will be going over actually really soon. But yeah, this is it's an okay vehicle overall. For some reason, I have this on AB settings, I guess, but as you can see here, the reason why it's called a hybrid, I think, is because you have like a different M4 here at the front. Like, this is an early version of an M4, and then it's kind of fused with the later version of an M4 on the side. You can see like the welding points here. It's pretty cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's it. Much the same goes for the Panzer IV-G, but the thing is, it's less balanced. I'd go with the M4 hybrid pretty much any day of the week over the Panzer IV-G for your average player, but if you want more of a sniper, the Panzer IV-G is better. Salieri Sahariano, that's a really fun vehicle. It's pretty much a Crusader for the Italians. In fact, I think that's what this was based on, Captured Crusaders. I think it's a fun vehicle, but it's not really great, and any day of the week, take the M4 hybrid over top of it. Now, if the OF40 is still on sale for Golden Eagles, I would say buy it. I've got a review on this thing. I love the OF40. The only real problem with this vehicle is that it doesn't have thermals. 9.0 BR, it's kind of forgivable not to have thermals. It's got the DM23, which is an okay round at this BR. Not fantastic, not terrible. It's just okay. And as you can see, I mean, I played this thing quite a bit. In fact, actually, I'm like one death away from getting my mark of distinction. But regardless, I like it a lot. If you want something that's really, really fast, I'll go ahead and you can see the power to weight ratio, 1,000 horsepower for 43 tons. This thing is fantastic when it comes to speed at 9.0 BR. I fully recommend it. And much the same if you want for the DC Ariat, but I would recommend the OF40 over top of that any day of the week. And then here we are for air. And as I said before, G91R4, this thing is fantastic for the Germans and for the Italians. It's the same vehicle on both sides. The G55S is pretty good. It's got a ton of armament, plus you can carry a torpedo with it. So if you want something that's like a torpedo fighter, it's cool. But I mean, personally, between that and the G2, I'd probably take the G2, but that's just me. And then finally, you have the Ariat. I love this thing. I've got a review on it. Fantastic vehicle. Easily among the best and most fun gunfighters in all of War Thunder. I would take this over the Shengang F5, the different Saber variants. This thing turns on a dime. It is a UFO and a half, and it's got 2 engines, believe it or not. As you can see, there is an engine up here, and you have one back here. So really cool, in my opinion. And it has kind of like a little bit of an afterburner on it. It is just like the most pure of pure gunfighters in game. Next up, France, and I would go with the B1 Tear. I love this thing. At this point, I would only take it if it's on sale, which it is, but it's a really, really good rank 2 vehicle. Ton of fun, especially once you get used to it. In a down tier, you are pretty much invulnerable. Next, you have the AMX-13 M24. This is another one I would only buy if it's on sale. It's a good vehicle, but it's rank 2, unfortunately. I would take the M4A1 FL10 any day of the week above it. If you're wondering what the difference is between this and other M4 Shermans, this has an autoloader and an oscillating turret and can only fire solid shot shells. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So let's just go ahead and put that right there, and you can check it out here. Now, again, it only has solid shot. These are really, really powerful solid shots, but it is solid shot, and it doesn't really have the greatest power to weight ratio. It's not terrible, but it's just not fantastic. It does have smoke grenades, which is nice. Good vehicle overall, but it is on an older Sherman chassis, and it really doesn't have all that much armor. 40, 20, 20 around the turret, and meh, especially at this BR around the hull. Next, you have the Panther Dauphine. I would say go for this if you are a fan of the Panther. I love Panthers. The only reason why I'm not going for it currently is because I have some other vehicles I want to buy, but I will come back to this once I get some more Golden Eagles during this sale. Awesome vehicle. I recommend it if you're a big fan of Panthers, or the Carolina Panthers for that matter. Now, I think the VBCI 2 MCT-30, I think that's for Golden Eagles. That's another one I would recommend personally. This is kind of like a French wheeled version of the 2S38. It's a very fun vehicle. It's got an autocannon. It's really good on the flanks. It's a good vehicle for what it is. And of course, it's rank 6, so you can ride all the way through rank 7 with it. Plus, it's got good RP and SL modifiers. The AMX-30, I think this is still on sale for Golden Eagles. It's okay, but again, any day of the week, take the VBCI 2 MCT-30 over top. I don't really know if I would recommend the Tiger HAP. I think it has relatively low range weapons, if I'm not mistaken. These only have a 4-kilometer range. Not fantastic. It's a good vehicle. I mean, it's okay, but I wouldn't really recommend it. That's just me. And then, of course, you come down here. I think the Milan is on Golden Eagle sale, if I'm not mistaken. If so, I kind of recommend it. It's a good strike aircraft, but it is terrible when it comes to fighting other vehicles. Now, since other vehicles have come out since, again, the release of the Milan, how bad this vehicle isn't quite as apparent as it used to be, because there are now worse vehicles than the Milan. But when it comes to ARB, it's not fantastic, but it does go really fast, and it's a pretty damn good close air support weapon if you don't mind having just a bunch of dumb bombs. But you can even get the job done in ARB and still get a few kills with it. It's a pretty good plane. I would recommend it, but like my lowest level of recommendation. And also the Narval, kind of similar in a way. This is branded as an interceptor, but the rate of climb isn't all that great. It's kind of more like a heavy strike aircraft, I would say. It's good, but I don't know. I mean, I like it. You know what? I like this vehicle. If you can buy this on sale for GE, go ahead and buy it, but I'd say get the Milan first and foremost, because you can grind through a lot more of the tech tree with it. And then here we are getting almost all the way to the end here, and we have Sweden. We have the Sherman 3.4 100%. Buy this, buy this, buy this. It, I think, has more armor than the other Shermans, and the thing is, this thing has a 500 horsepower engine. Other Shermans do not. This thing is actually a good amount faster than most other Shermans. 3.7 BR, rank 3, fantastic, 100% recommend. I think you can get the Leopard 185NO for GE, and if that's the case, I would recommend this as well. Rank 6, it's a good vehicle. It's the Leopard 185 after all. You have yourself thermals, even if they are only Gen 1. TM33, as you can see, I've played it quite a bit, and it is, of course, just, very good vehicle, plus you have a very good lineup. I styled it as kind of a good backup vehicle for if you have the CV90105 and that dies, you can just use this and it really wouldn't feel too out of place, even in a higher BR match. Very good vehicle. If you're going to go with one, I would say go with this, but also the Sherman 3.4, this is a fantastic low BR vehicle, which by the way, I'll have a review out on this fairly soon. And then of course, we are almost again at the end. We have aviation here. There are a few, I picked the Fokker DXXI or the D21, whatever it is. The reason why I picked this is because I value heavier firepower a little bit more compared to performance, what you see on the Morco Marine. But this is still, they're both really, really good options for you to get. The Puromsky, this thing is fantastic. It's a great, great vehicle. Of course, you have pretty decent close air support loadout, but not fantastic. It's just a very good vehicle overall. Plus, it's rank 3. If you want something a little bit better, you really can't go wrong with the BF109 G6. And then, of course, the Saab 105OE. This thing has guided weapons, the RB05A. I think these are pretty much, it slipped my mind. I think these are the Italian, like the same thing here as the AS-20s. They're very similar to the AS-20 Nords. So definitely if you want a close air support weapon or you want to go after air targets, you can do that much the same with this. In fact, you can equip 30mm cannons and this, and because this gets an air spawn, because it is only rank 5 after all, you can actually go after a lot of air targets with it. And then finally, of course, I think we have the A32A Rota Adam. I did a review on this. It's not fantastic. I don't think it's on sale for fewer GE, but I would not recommend it. And the J35A, I would recommend this more if this is on sale. My apologies if it's not. It's just unfortunately Gaijin, once you buy something, Gaijin doesn't tell you if it's on sale or not or what the current GE price is, so you feel good about buying it when you did. They just kind of say, oh, you have it now. No one really cares otherwise. But I would recommend this over the A32A, but that's just me. And then finally we have Israel, and there's not really all too much for sale here. I would say if the Chalcal Delet, or Delet, however it's pronounced, is on sale, I do like this vehicle. It does have thermals. It does have a pretty good shell at 9.0 BR. It's a bit slow, but it's a pretty good vehicle. Plus it has ERA on it. I do like this. If that's on sale, the Magach 3 ERA is pretty good as well, and this does have a bunch of ERA on it. So, it's not very effective. It is only Blazer ERA, but if this isn't on sale, then this is still a pretty decent vehicle to purchase if, of course, you don't have the ability to get the Caldelet. And then finally, of course, we have Israeli aviation, and I like the F-84F. Actually, I think I did a review on this a few months, or maybe like a year or so ago. It's a good strike aircraft. It's only rank 6, but with it, you can grind all the way up through, currently at least, the Kafir C7. So it's a really good vehicle in that regard. It has an absolute ton of loadout options. So, it's really good for an overall strike aircraft. I would say pick up the A4E first. I would just wait for this to come on sale, or even the Kafir Canard, but I like the A4E out of these three more, but that's just me. But either way, thanks so much for watching. This was a crazy crazy long video, and I hope you guys were able to make use of it. By the way, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Good luck in the sales, and good luck getting the TOG 2. Take care, everyone.